Welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast, coming to you every week from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful ice of the Galactic Empire. Join your hosts, John Mark Tolley, Garrett K. Jones, and Brian Karasik, as they discuss the various facets of the saga's lore, characters, review the films, and discuss every tidbit of news coming out of Lucasfilm. And remember, this isn't just my Star Wars, this isn't just your Star Wars, this is our Star Wars. Yes, it is indeed our Star Wars. Welcome again to another episode.
This week it's mine. You're all fired.
Oh, okay.
No, just kidding.
Can we get fired when we don't get paid for?
Vacation.
I don't know where I was at. It is not only War of the Stars, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is, as of when this show will be released, Star Wars Podcast Day.
Yeah.
It is the anniversary of the very first Star Wars podcast way back in 1999. The very first Star Wars podcast was produced and put out there, and for the last 6 years, we have been a part of celebrating that stupendous moment to be a part of it. Currently, there are 67 other podcasts that will be joining us to celebrate this day. And we're celebrating it by talking about...
We're talking about Smugglers lore.
Yes, Smugglers. We've kind of touched a little bit on a few... we touched a little bit on Han, who's probably the most, in Star Wars canon at least, one of the most well-known smugglers.
Yes, well known. We've also touched on Chewbacca.
Quite Chewie.
Yeah.
Would Lando consider Lando a smuggler?
Nah, he's a businessman.
Yeah,
I would argue that being famous for being a smuggler means you are not a very good smuggler.
This is true. This is true.
I don't know. Hondo seems to be pretty famous.
Hondo's a pirate.
Pirates, smugglers. The only difference is the smuggler just doesn't steal from other people to fill their cargo hold and then sell it to the highest bidder.
But logistically, a well-known pirate might pull up alongside you, and you're like, "Oh shoot, it's him! You can have it." You're like, "That was."
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
Whereas a well-known smuggler, you pull up on them, and you're like, "We're going to need to check the holds. Come on."
Yeah.
This is also.
You got
famous line. From
you got Rastars in there.
Sorry. From Pirates of the Caribbean, that you're the worst pirate I've ever heard of. But you have heard of me.
Yeah, just like I am the worst writer you guys have ever heard of, but you have heard of me.
Also, you're not the worst writer.
I know. That title actually goes to the chick who wrote Twilight.
Not for nothing, there is a line in one of those books where Edward's voice is described as being smoky like burned caramel or something. Lady, you're the writer. Don't use or something. You tell me. Don't make me do the work for you.
She was writing it from a perspective of being a 15-year-old teenager who breathes through her mouth. So,
well, all right. So welcome to War of the Stars, the Twilight Edition, where we discuss... There is a solid marketing theory behind Bella as a character. She's a cipher. The character of Edward and Jacob are both, they're both described for pages on end of like every aspect of their personality, everything, the way they look, down to the micron. Bella is this blank cipher so that the intended audience of those books can put themselves in her role.
I'd rather stick with playing Halo.
Smugglers we were talking about? Let's do that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah.
I take it seriously. I'm a horror fan. I was like, oh man, a popular vampire show. Let's oh no, it's not good. Watch True Blood. True Blood is what Twilight should have been.
You're not wrong. Not wrong. Definitely a better looking cast.
Yeah.
Anyway, I must confess I'm not well versed in the smuggler industry. Aside from Han Solo, who are some of the big names in smuggling?
Yeah.
Would we consider Dr. Afra to be a smuggler?
It's some kind of.
In some cases, I mean, she does. She's more of like a
ne'er-do-well,
purveyor of illegal arms.
She's an arms dealer.
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Now,
an archaeological arms dealer.
Who? Let me think. Who was the one? Mara Jade?
Yeah,
Really?
Mara Jade did as a smuggler, didn't she?
Yeah, because she was Talon Card. She worked with Talon Card, who is definitely a smuggler.
Yeah.
So everything I know about Mara Jade pretty much focuses on her time as the Emperor's Hand. Was she smuggling at that time? Because
this was after she.
There was an amazing graphic novel. I never read the individual issues of it, but like her time as the Hand, if she was likened to if Vader was an axe, she was a scalpel.
Yeah. But no, after the events of Return of the Jedi, she actually ends up basically hooking up with Talon Card and becoming his basically second in command. And
yeah, she is a bit of a protege to him.
Yeah, and because Card kind of takes over the what was left of the Hutt Jabba's empire.
Can I tell you guys the fan fiction I had created for myself with Mara Jade? She was sent on a mission to take out Skywalker. Palpatine's last telepathic command to her was get Skywalker. She tracks him down, finds him. They end up both stranded on some deserted planet with monsters everywhere. They have to hide out in a cave or whatever. This is a long time ago. But due to them having to rely on each other to save their lives, that's when she sort of falls for Luke and he brings her back to the light. And for decades, I had it in my head that in one of these books, one of these comics, they're going to be sitting down at dinner and she's going to say, oh, one more thing. And she's going to kill the kid and pop her lightsaber at Luke and say, now you will experience the true power of the dark side, Skywalker. That's the long con I was waiting for. But no, that pexy light side, you can't shake it.
Yeah. I mean, Mara Jade was one of those very interesting characters because, like, I think, like, next to Leia, she was like kind of like the 1990s love interest type insert for the Star Wars canon at the time.
Yeah. Well, getting back to the smugglers,
actual smugglers.
Yeah, I think it wasn't necessarily like when you look through Star Wars lore, individual smugglers, other than Han, aren't really mentioned, but the whole concept of smuggling was what kept the rebellion, funded in many ways. It was, the blockade runners, running, smuggling arms to these desperate rebels. It was things like that. So smugglers played a huge role, whether they knew it or not, in really both sides. Whether it be smuggling arms to and from, to these rebel cells, or doing the same thing with the Empire, giving them technology and, smuggling secrets. A true smuggler would be more than willing to play both sides for more credits.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and then you've also got the what was I going to say? Well, and what's interesting is because you look at characters like Dryden Voss. Dryden Voss is listed according to Star Wars as a notorious smuggler, as is Maz Kanata, but we never see them do any actual smuggling. And Dryden Voss comes off more as like a
crime boss,
syndicate boss. Yeah.
In that he is a crime syndicate boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
He
it's
does
like,
come off as one.
what it asked the question, where is the where's the line get crossed? Because like smugglers, yes, they get things across, troop lines or political lines in to help one side or the other. It's basically they're kind of a middleman.
Yeah.
But
Boba did some smuggling as a kid.
yeah, Boba did some smuggling, and especially when he was learning from Antenna Head. What's her name? Crap.
I believe it is Antenna Head.
That is canon.
Who was it?
I said that's canon. Antenna Head.
Canon.
It's canon now.
Aura Singh.
Thank you for
Yeah,
getting that faster than me.
By the way, I googled Star Wars Antenna Head,
and that's what pops up. They knew exactly who you were talking about. That's awful.
Hey, the algorithm knows us, guys.
All hail the algorithm.
I mean, there's this really weird line, like it's very, very almost invisible, of what constitutes a smuggler, because like according to Wikipedia, I'm looking here, and it talks about the notable smugglers being Han Solo, Chewbacca, Lando, Hondo, Maz, Dryden, some guy named Gannis Duquesne that I've never heard of. He was specifically a gun runner.
The Wikipedia list is like 4 people I've never heard of, and Ponda Baba.
Yeah. And so but some of these characters cross over, because like when we first meet Maz Kanata, there's nothing about her that indicates that she's a smuggler. She might harbor smugglers, she might harbor other forms of fugitive, but she herself does not do any smuggling in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Well, I don't know necessarily. I mean, we don't see that, but I don't think you necessarily have to be a smuggler. I don't know if you necessarily have to leave the confine. Like, she can be a middleman for smugglers. Like, she can hold the whatever the cargo they're doing there, and then the smugglers go and pick that up and smuggle it. So she can be like like a halfway point almost between from one point to another point. A place where smugglers can drop off goods that another group of smugglers. So in that instance, she would be somewhat of a smuggler because she's smuggling in.
That's true.
That's
true. And I think what was the name of the character from Bad Batch?
Oh, I know you're talking about.
Voiced by Rhea Perlman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She, because she exactly wasn't a smuggler, but she did smuggle items on and off world, and she was kind of the middle ground between that.
Yeah.
Sidarian Scaleback. Sidarin. Am I saying that right? I don't speak Trandoshan.
Neither do I, my friend.
Yeah.
But yes, there's Sidarin.
Yeah, so it becomes, I don't know, it becomes it's one of those topics that like you hear the term, but it's kind of like that weird that senatorial response. I don't really know how to define it, but I know it when I see it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting the level of lawlessness in the Star Wars galaxy to which smuggler is a legitimate and gainful employment for so many people. I think in the original West End Games RPG, smuggler was like one of the 4 classes you could pick. It's just there's so many smugglers, so many things to smuggle. Meanwhile, they're often portrayed as like lovable rogues with a heart of gold. But like, what are you smuggling? You're generally smuggling drugs, weapons, slave labor. Like smuggling, the reason you're smuggling it is commonly because what you're doing is illegal.
Yeah. I think the reason why they can be portrayed as lovable rogues is because at least a lot of the smugglers that we meet, or the idea is that there's a lot of smugglers who are smuggling stuff for the rebellion.
that
True.
they're, so because they're the quote unquote good guys, then we can look at them more favorably than say Ice Runners.
Say what you might about Last Jedi, and Lord knows we will, but I think DJ's character makes a very good point in that a war is fought by two sides, and they both need to buy weapons. And I think that's like I don't know that we would count him as a smuggler, but you're absolutely right, John Mark. When people are smuggling, they could be smuggling refugees out off of an enslaved world, but they could also be smuggling, ion cannons to shoot down fighters. So who knows?
Well, and how long does it? I mean, what's that line? I know they mentioned Hondo in there. We mentioned Hondo's being also a pirate, but how long does it take before a smuggler looks at it and says, wait a minute, it would be a lot easier instead of going there and being the middleman, just cutting out the middleman myself and just taking the cargo from this other ship myself.
Well,
and
that's that is an interesting
big
thing
ship
about
with guns.
Whenever you're dealing with someone who's trading in contraband, like first you have to find a criminal, but then you have to hope that they're only criminal enough to do the crime you want them to, and not enough of a criminal to rob you and or murder you.
Yeah.
Also, yes.
It's my college freshman year all over again. I shouldn't say freshman year. That implies that there were any other years.
Well, who knows? But
those two facts are not unrelated.
It's kind of this weird thing because because when you ask someone what a smuggler is or how to identify what a smuggler is, they're really not sure. But for example, I'm jumping franchises to Firefly. In Firefly, the crew of the Serenity, they do steal stuff and they bring it somewhere else, and they do smuggle underneath the Alliance noses because essentially smuggling is getting contraband from point A to point B. It's just the type of smuggler that you are.
Yeah.
So if you're illegally transporting other beings into captivity or slavery or whatever, then you are a slave trader or you are a slave runner.
And we can agree that's bad.
It's terrible.
Yes.
Under most circumstances.
You're transporting weapons of any kind or the ingredients and or components to build a weapon, unless you are an officially contracted supplier, you are a gun runner. You are smuggling weapons.
But if you're bringing medicine to children, you can just get a total pass. I think it's outrageous.
Not necessarily. Think about how many times that has been used as a cover, or it was actually being done. But then, those individuals got captured, arrested, the medicine destroyed, because it meant nothing to the Empire, or it meant nothing to those in charge. And
that's the Empire for you. The cruelty is the point.
Right. And so it's I don't know, it's kind of that one of those weird middle grounds where it's hard to really identify, and it has so many different little subcategories connected to it.
Yeah, I agree.
Because for example, I mean, technically by that token, R2-D2 and C-3PO are smugglers because they were smuggling contraband information.
Yes.
And it gets back to a gray area that's explored in a lot of fiction, in that if you have, in the case of an illegal or unjust government, disobeying the laws of that government become perhaps an honor, a virtue. As you said, if you're smuggling refugees out of captivity, that is an objectively moral act, albeit also a felonious crime that carries a death penalty under the Empire. So it's just and I think you mentioned Firefly, Garrett. I think it's interesting that the villains of Firefly are called the Alliance.
Right.
You will be allied with us, or else.
Hey, one person's tyrant is another person's freedom fighter.
Exactly.
We're trying not to get political, folks, but it's going to happen.
And that's just it. Because, I mean, we've talked about this when we talked about the Galactic Empire. We talked about this when we talked about the Rebel Alliance. I mean, you look at the Rebel Alliance from the Imperial side of things. they're looked at as terrorists. You
Mhm.
look at it, you look at that civil unrest from the rebellion side of things, they're fighting against a tyrannical government that is doing everything in its power to quash individualism and freedom.
And that's been the case in every real world case of,
Right.
terrorists don't generally think they're villains. Nobody's a villain in their own story.
You even said something earlier, Brian, where you said, the rebels, going against a illegitimate government. Well, the Empire would say, well, we're legitimate. Palpatine was elected.
As far as I mean, he was elected. But yeah, there's just nothing in the statutes for mind control, galactic manipulation, evil sorcery. Like there's a lot of gray areas there.
Oh yeah.
That is funny to see. There's some of the Star Wars fiction out there addresses like how the citizens of the Empire who are not in the rebellion feel about the Empire, like things that the three of us take for granted as just known things. The people never knew about. There's a scene in Lost Stars where the female protagonist of that film sees Palpatine for the first time on the Death Star 2 under construction, and she's shocked. She's horrified. She's never seen him. All she's seen are like the hollows that are projected in the galaxy. So for the entire duration of the Galactic Empire, from Empire Day on, pretty much the only people who ever saw Palpatine face to face are his guardians and like his allies.
Yeah.
As far as the rest of the Empire goes, the rest of the galaxy, they only see him in holoprojectors where his image is edited to look like Senator Palpatine.
Well, they even mentioned that in Bad Batch, the episode of Bad Batch, there where I can't remember who the character was, but I think it was season 1 or season 2, and where the Emperor shows up, and they even mentioned like the Emperor never shows up at Senate hearings, like never. And so when the Emperor comes up in his throne, in his like little center thing, everybody's like, oh, this is, and he basically throws
you guys look busy. I wish I brushed my teeth today. The Emperor's here
because they just destroyed the planet, the clone planet. I can't Camino. And they were using, and all the stuff came up that it was this general who did it, because they'd said, oh, it was an explosion in the reactor, thing happened, and then they showed the footage of the Venator class Star Destroyers basically going in, and then the Emperor shows up and is like, we are so disheartened by this attack, and it's like, of course we now know who's responsible, and has this general arrested, even though it was Palpatine who ordered the whole thing, but
naturally
he's gonna clean up the tracks,
sure,
so to speak.
Which I think is nice that he's even making an effort at that point.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like towards the end, that sort of event, he would have just been like, yeah, I did it, deal with it. Yeah. What are you gonna do? Send a Jedi after me?
Oh wait.
I do think though, the profession of smuggling, it's gotta take some real guts, because pretty much, especially at the time that in the period of the Galactic Empire, getting caught committing a crime means you are executed or enslaved for the rest of your life. There's not a lot of like 30 days in jail and time served. Like you are doomed one way or another if you are caught breaking the law, be whatever law it is, essentially. And smugglers, like, towards the end of the Galactic Empire's reign, there was very much a shoot first and ask questions never philosophy. Like, I think that might be a smuggler ship. Well, let's blow it out of space and move on. Come on, coffee's ready. So I think
even if you are smuggling for the Empire, you have to know that your job security is only as far as you're useful to them. And even you may as with that general
in Bad Batch, like even if you succeed, as was even odds that you're going to get killed, so you won't tell anybody you did it.
Yeah,
smugglers are a dime a dozen out there. Like you did this successfully one time, we can find somebody else to do it successfully one time too.
Yeah, the minute you become a not an asset that they need or not important, you're disposable. to them.
That's why the Empire had to be so large. They needed that many disposable assets.
True.
I forget what planet it is, but in the beginning of like the very first new canon novel, New Dawn, was it? The one where we first meet Hera Syndulla. She we are visiting a planet that has been mined to destruction. Like the Empire has mined the resources out of this planet to the point that the core has been compromised.
Yeah. Well, there's another group of smugglers right there we didn't mention, the crew of the Ghost. They did a lot of smuggling. I mean,
they did, and
I'm not going to get started. I'm not going to get started on everything I hate about Ezra Bridger. That's another episode.
Wow.
I could fill an episode with what I dislike about Ezra Bridger, but yes, they are good smugglers.
Yeah.
Hera Syndulla is one of my favorite heroic characters in Star Wars too. She's a brilliantly
I like her
role. I think it's so cool to see a Twi'lek like who isn't a politician or an entertainer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or a half-naked Sith.
And not to get too off topic,
naked.
Not to get too much more off topic than we already have in this episode, but
as one does.
I like the dynamic between Kanan and Hera.
No, they're smugglers. I think it's on topic. Yeah.
Yeah, but the way they play off each other, and
is that show? Is that the show the first example that we canonically know that Twi'lek can successfully breed with humans?
I don't know.
Because Hera does. Correct me. Hera does have a child at the end of that.
Yeah, Jason.
Yes,
and it is Kanan's.
Yeah, it's Kanan's. Yeah,
I think she should have named him Caleb.
Oh,
nothing.
Caleb, yeah, I know. I answered it there. Caleb Doom.
Yeah. But anyway, I am not aware of any other canonical hybrid characters between Twi'lek and humans, which has got to be a genetic long shot, guys. That's pretty impressive because those two species are highly divergent. But at any rate, they are a perfect example of what we were talking about, the white hat smuggler. Like they don't take any gray area missions on. Everything they do is just strictly this is for the good of the galaxy. Type stuff, right? Very, very Disney heroes there. I mean, Ezra kind of dabbles in the dark side too when he's hanging out with Maul for a little while, but that's like a 2-episode arc, and then never hear it again.
But I mean,
we're also talking.
It's a good example of like the early rebellion would have had a lot of smuggling in it, whether it be weapon smuggling, even for just to raise money for.
Yeah, they didn't have the logistics to do it any other way.
Yeah, and you see that even with Andor, first season of Andor, it was.
I forget where I read this, but I feel like at some point we are told that the Battle of Endor, where they take out Death Star 2, that is essentially every ship in the Rebel fleet. Yeah, they got everybody together. That's the entire Rebel fleet right there. Pretty much. So yeah, they would have to use smugglers, some of whom were not so much affiliated with the Rebel Alliance as much as just taking a check from them.
Yeah.
But that's how you build a new government: is you gotta scrape together what you can, right? Just ask the colonists.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, think about. I mean, American history looks at characters like John Paul Jones as having been a great naval commander, but he had been a smuggler before that.
Mm-hmm. A lot of our early, John Paul Jones, Stephen Decatur, they were all would be considered smugglers. And
I have to mention, last night my wife and I watched a movie just came out on Netflix called Here. In it, Paul Bettany, aka the Vision, Jarvis, and Dryden Voss plays Tom Hanks's World War II veteran dad, and it was killing me the whole way through. Like, it's Dryden Voss, look at him go. But anyway, props to Paul Bettany, who can just do anything. He's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes from playing Geoffrey Chaucer to playing the Vision with some of the best romantic dialogue a robot could have.
Thank you for knowing he's played Chaucer. A lot of people miss that.
So
I think A Knight's Tale is a criminally underrated historical film.
Comment about that, how the most Casanova man in the Marvel universe is technically not even human
or biological.
Can we lay some of that game at the feet of Tony Stark, who programmed him?
I don't know. I'd say the vision was a little bit smoother.
Tony Stark was playing some Japanese dating sim, and he was like, "Yeah, this is what you should say, buddy." I'd like to see a point of view of Vision, like talking to Wanda, and you get the little 3-option thing, like, "What do I say here?" Beep beep beep. Because nothing but love for the Vision, but he is an android. There is an algorithm responding to her.
Here's something for you though. If possible, because we mentioned Mara Jade as a smuggler, Elizabeth Olsen as Mara Jade, fan cast.
Okay.
I can see that. Yeah.
I would.
Happen, Disney.
I like when characters, like when actors I like when they get the trifecta, like Ian McKellen is Magneto and Gandalf, or like I like when they get really big characters in different franchises. And Fennec Shand, who's the actress? I'm sorry,
Ming-Na Wen.
Okay, so Ming-Na Wen has been in Disney. She's been a Disney princess. She's been a Star Wars smuggler, and she's Star Trek. What's the other thing? She's in Marvel too.
Yeah, she was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And good for her, because she's amazing.
She was also Chun-Li.
Sorry, Kristen Kreuk is Chun-Li canonically in my. That's wasn't she the one who played the first Chun-Li?
Yeah, she in 1993's Street Fighter.
Yes,
starring the ever coked out Jean-Claude Van Damme
and the much beloved Raul Julia.
Raul Julia, yeah, dude, yeah. Raul Julia. Talk about
his last role.
Though
I know, and he would have made for a great Sith Lord.
And you can see the cancer on screen. Like, Raul Julia looks terrible in that film.
Oh yeah, but he gave it his best.
Not to make too much of a hot take here, but you mentioned Ian McKellen as Magneto. I love Ian McKellen, but for me personally, Fassbender is a better Magneto. Fassbender is Magneto.
Just different generations. I don't disagree with you. I wouldn't cast Ian McKellen as a young Magneto in that he is not young. But yeah, Fassbender's an excellent Magneto. I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Anyway, this is not the X-Men podcast.
But it could be if we really try.
The Force is with us. We can do this.
So to kind of circle back, I guess I don't have a lot more to say on Smugglers. Like it's a cool concept. I think it's an interesting character trope. It's an interesting genre of character to create, because you can go, as we've said, you can go in any direction. You can have the Han Solo who's like a scoundrel but a hero inside. You can go Hondo Ohnaka, who's just a scoundrel. And Hondo Ohnaka, by the way, has a superpower that nobody ever remembers. He ripped him off last time. I think I mentioned that previously. Every time he double crosses Bridger's like, "Oh, Hondo, yeah, he got you again, buddy. Skunked again."
Yeah.
But a smuggler, because of the nature of the job, you're just doing something clandestinely, and that's a broad enough scope that you could be doing anything clandestinely, something heroic, something villainous, or something somewhere in between. You could be smuggling medicine to children, but in the crates under the medicine are, phased plasma rifles with a 40-watt range. Could be anything.
Also, yes. And we've seen that happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in the Clone Wars, there's at least 1 or 2 episodes where you see smuggling happening, but at the same time, they're hiding something else underneath what they think they're smuggling.
Did you guys see that scene in Rebels where in the background someone is loading the Ark of the Covenant onto a ship?
There's what?
I'm going to find it here for you. In one episode of Rebels, in the background of the scene, Someone is loading the Ark of the Covenant, noticeably the Ark of the Covenant in.
Well, that is interesting.
Sorry, it's the Ryloth Ark.
The Ryloth.
The Ryloth Ark.
I'm gonna share my screen here if I can present.
So wait a minute. Does that officially make the people of Ryloth and the Twi'leks Israelite?
There we go. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for whatever you.
Oh, I see it. I just put it up on.
Yep, it's just in the background
It's
there.
loading.
Like, I had to zoom in on it.
Oh
pretty
my
hard 'cause
gosh!
it's
I remember
background.
seeing that now. Holy cow!
That is
That's
the Ark of the
quality.
Covenant.
I mean, they said it was top men, but I didn't think it was top men on another planet. This
For what it's
actually kind of
worth-
ties. This kind of ties the Crystal Skull fiasco a little bit closer to home.
Around 22 years before the Battle of Yavin during the Clone Wars, Separatist Council member Emir Wat Tambor seized control of Ryloth. One of Tambor's tasks was to collect valuables stored on the planet, one of which is the Ryloth Ark. During a battle on the planet, the Ark was carried by 2 Twi'leks as they boarded a Sheathipede-class shuttle. Later, in 5 ABY, the Ark was kept inside a display case on Scardia Station, where it was viewed by many. And that's it. Behind the scenes. Yep, inspired by the real-life religious artifact known as the Ark of the Covenant, which I don't think we actually know what it looks like. So the fact that they just made it look like the Raiders of the Lost Ark prop is just a nice touch. I like overlap like that. Like the dagger in the Shadow. Did you see that movie back in the 90s? The Alec Baldwin movie, The Shadow. The evil dagger is the dagger in The Golden Child of Eddie Murphy.
No, they're both very Tibetan in their.
No, I mean it is the same prop.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Oh,
So that's
right. Well,
I can add no more to the conversation about Smugglers. I do think
it
was never a role
well-
I played, but they definitely. I mean, everybody's got to do something for money in the galaxy, and there's certainly enough that needs to be hidden that it's a viable approach for someone who is lucky, albeit not long lived.
Yeah.
Accurate.
How come the scan? I do want to ask. How come the scanners aren't better? Like the Empire, they capture the Millennium Falcon, they search it, and our heroes are hiding in like there's nothing but one door, like they're in a floor closet. Come on, how are we not searching for life signs just a little bit more? Is this just like, is this a comment on the Empire's lackadaisical approach to searching? Is this a problem with technology? Is Han just that good? But like, how can you possibly hide 3 humans and a Wookiee, 4 humans and a Wookiee, and the Empire's just like, and why did they keep looking like, well, the ship must have landed itself? I don't know. Sometimes empty ships so up to coffee's ready.
Well, I mean, it's the stormtrooper, so they miss things.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. That's Imperial regulations. You must fail 1 spot check a day.
I feel good about that one. You set me up for that one, Brian.
You really should. Yeah, I wish I could take credit for it, but you just completely alley-ooped on me. I didn't even know I was playing. Nicely done.
I tried.
That's our show, folks. Thanks for tuning in.
Well, with that being said,
what do we got for next week?
For next week, we're going to love us some Lando as we talk about the smoothest guy in the galaxy, Lando Calrissian.
Cool. 45.
Dude, we should all have Colt 45.
Do they even sell that anymore?
I
don't know.
I know a guy.
You know a guy.
So yeah, we'll be talking about Lando Calrissian next week. It's going to be good. I'm going to have some grape flavored scotch.
Careful.
What? That way someone could say something awesome and I could spit it out and be like, grape scotch.
That sounds to me like Burger King's Bacon Sundae. Do you remember that? Yeah.
I also remember their Darth Vader Whopper. It was disgusting.
Well, it's just squid ink. Yeah, I called that a Dathomir Sith Witch.
Oh, gross. I want to vomit.
Anyway, Brian, why don't you
This
tell
is
the
a free
people out there
podcast.
where they can find you at?
I am one of the admins on the Sith Library and Archives on Facebook. It is a lovingly curated collection of Sith culture, art, jokes, humor, everything you can think of that is Empire or Dark Side related. You'll find it there. I post as Darth Corossus. I'm one of several admins out there. I have not been that hardworking of late, but I do invite you to come out there and see us because I have just started a new series of lectures on Sith culture and literature. So do join us at the Sith Library and Archives on Facebook. Thanks for tuning in.
Garrett, what about yourself?
Well, you guys can find me on Instagram and X at GKJ_publishing, where I talk about my books, The Archives of Asincran. It's a 5-book ongoing fantasy series. In fact, the day of this recording, which was Monday the 3rd, it was the 10th anniversary of my first book, The Heirs of Menenias. And if you are interested in picking up a signed copy, you can use code anniversary at my store on Square to get 10% off all your total purchase. That includes the books, getting signed copies of those, as well as getting one of the brand new air candles, which is scented and themed to go along with the book as a companion, and it has the fragrance of sandalwood. You can also connect with me on YouTube by searching for GKJ Publishing. I have a show called The Right Way where we talk book recommendations, author interviews, and creative writing tips. This coming Saturday, the 8th, I have a writing workshop live stream that I'm going to be doing from my local library where we're going to be talking about how to write Westerns.
Ooh, fun. All right. As for us right here, of course, if you want to get a hold of us, there's a few ways you can do that. You can email us at warthestars1@gmail.com. That is our email. Our Instagram is at war_of_the_star1. And we are on X at warthestars1. Or you can check us out on YouTube at WOTS77. Also, we are a proud member of Feast of Fandoms. Check out all the shows of Feast of Fandoms. There's a lot of really good shows there. And it's a really cool group of shows. So yeah, check those out. If you want to support the show, of course, kofi.com/War of the Stars, or you can check us out on our Spreadshirt, spreadshirt.com/shop/war-of-the-stars. Once again, we are a part of celebrating Star Wars Podcast Day back in 1999, February 7th. Jedi Talk, the very first Star Wars podcast, was produced and put out there. And we just want to thank those guys way back then for paving the way for our stupid little Star Wars show that we're doing right now. So thank you guys. But with that being said, check us out next week as we're talking about Lando. And as always, remember, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next week, may the Force be with you.